General Hospital recaps for Thursday, September 11th feature interrogations, faking an alibi, and a mother collapsing at the sight of her not-so-dead daughter. Anna Devane questions Curtis Ashford. Michael Corinthos fabricates sex for an alibi, and Liesl Albrecht passes out at the sight of Britt Westbourne. Anna interrogates Curtis. Anna greeted Curtis and Martin Gray into her office, where the attorney cautioned his client to keep his answers brief. Anna advised that going on the defensive right away would not look good, but Curtis reminded her of his past as a cop and his commitment to protecting his rights. As the questioning began, Anna inquired about Curtis' difficult relationship with the victim. She questioned Curtis about his recent allegations against the congressman for misusing his authority to target his Aunt Stella Henry, asking if he was angry enough to kill. Anna says Curtis' alibi isn't great. Curtis described his movements on the night of Drew's shooting, stating that he went from Alexis Davis's house to the Savoy, which was a true statement. He said that he later met his ex-wife, Jordan Ashford, for drinks at Brown Dog Bar, which she could confirm. However, Anna pointed out that Curtis was at the club during the shooting, making his alibi less than solid and telling him it wasn't good. Trina Robinson stopped by her mother Portia Robinson's office at the hospital to see how she was doing. When asked about the blackmail issue, Trina showed anxiety about whether anyone else had evidence of her conduct. Portia cautioned her daughter to stay away from the situation, but Trina was concerned about the potential consequences if Drew's proof appeared. She wanted the blackmail would stop, but Portia admitted that it was unlikely, even though she was no longer concerned about it. She was determined not to live in fear and was willing to face any consequences. Relieved, Trina hugged her mother. Curtis checks in with Portia later. Curtis arrived to brief Portia of his interrogation and comfort her that she did not appear to be the prime suspect, despite the fact that he remained a person of interest. However, he also mentioned that if anyone found out about their breakup because of Drew, it might give a stronger motivation for both of them. Curtis suggested that until they were out of danger, they appeared to be a happy couple to deflect suspicion. He asked whether she was okay with it, and Portia didn't seem very enthusiastic about the idea, probably because of her cheating with Isaiah Gannon. Lucas grilled Carly about threatening Drew. Carly Spencer went to the hospital to see Drew, and Elizabeth Weber reluctantly gave her his room number. Lucas Jones stopped his sister to ask if Else was aware of her danger to Drew's life. She was upset at Liz, who had overheard the threat but insisted that Lucas was the only person she confided in. Carly readily acknowledged to threatening Drew, but she insisted that she did not shoot him. Lucas believed her, but he also warned that visiting Drew might give the authorities the incorrect impression. However, Carly was adamant and would not be deterred. Lucas apologized to Elizabeth later. Lucas expressed his regrets to Liz about Carly's condition, and the nurse assumed Drew would notify the police about what she had heard. Liz then told Lucas that she would inform the authorities that Drew had provoked Carly into making the threat. Lucas only desired that Carly would not get arrested, and he added that he hoped that no one would get into trouble. Liz was surprised that he would want the gunman to avoid prosecution, but Lucas ignored her concerns. Drew has pushed many individuals too far, he told me. It may sound harsh, but I believe the guy brought this upon himself. Willow talks with Drew. Drew was pleased to open his eyes and find Willow Tate in his room, gleefully assuring her that he felt so much better now that she was by his side. She asked Drew about his memories of the shooting, and he recounted the circumstances leading up to it, emphasizing that he took her ring out of the safe because she was returning to him. "I'm not alive because of Tracy," he said with a chuckle. "I survived because I have too much to live for and I had to get through. To be with you and the kids." Willow forced a strained smile on her face. Willow began updating Drew about Scout when Carly came in. While Willow was filling Drew in on Scout, Carly stormed in, unable to contain her snark about their reunion before getting to the meat of the issue. She informed Drew that Scout Kane had once again escaped camp to go to the Quartermaines. Willow informed a concerned Drew that the small child was secure, and Carly persuaded him to let Scout stay with her family while he recovered. Drew held steadfast, insisting that Scout be with Willow. "Perhaps you should focus on your own child instead of mine," Drew snarled. "Because if Michael hasn't already been charged for my shooting, he will be. And it will be soon." Carly stated that if she wanted Drew dead, he would be. Carly insisted that Michael was not guilty of any shooting, and accused Drew of simply wanting him out of the picture so Willow could retrieve her children. She pointed out that many individuals had reasons to wish him dead, prompting Drew to challenge her claim, questioning whether her faith in Michael's innocence stemmed from her own guilt in shooting him. "Drew, if I truly wanted you dead," she said, "you would already be gone." Carly, frustrated, expressed her dismay, noting that she had believed Drew would act in Scout's best interests, but it was clear that he was lost. "And just so you know," she said to Willow as she departed, "you are too." Willow continued talking to Drew when she was alone again. Willow wondered if Drew would notify the police about Carly's threat. However, he claimed that Michael shot him, adding, "Even if he didn't, it benefits us for him to be blamed for it." Willow was perplexed as to how he planned to frame Michael, given that he had already told the police that he didn't see who shot him. Willow was concerned that the shooter would return, but Drew assured her that after Michael was imprisoned, she would be reunited with her children and they could be a family again. She agreed to the idea. Dante, caught off guard, Dante Falconeri knocked on Jacinda Bracken's door at the Metro Court to ask her a few questions, and she reluctantly allowed him in. Dante frowned when he saw Michael walk out of the restroom without a shirt. After getting dressed, Michael informed Jacinda that the investigator is his brother. When told Michael had nominated her as his alibi, she consented to answer any questions. She then told how they had met, had a drink, and then returned to her room from the pub. Dante pointed out that Michael had not included that information in his statement and asked for a time alone with his brother. General Hospital recap. September 11th. Liesl feigns seeing Britt, Michael fakes it, and Anna interrogates Michael fakes sex for an alibi. Michael apologized for not disclosing that aspect, but Dante interrupted him, disbelieving everything and accusing him of hiring the escort for an alibi. He pressed his brother for the truth, but a phone call stopped him, causing him to depart hastily. When left alone, Michael thanked Jacinda for supporting his account, and she chuckled, saying they barely had time to set up their meeting before Dante arrived. She asked Michael whether he had any scars or tattoos she should be aware of for future questioning. She also mentioned that the alibi protected both of them, and they agreed to continue collaborating. Nonetheless, she was concerned because Drew had paid her to leave the country. Nina Reeves met with Lulu Spencer to advise her that Jack Brennan had inquired about Charlotte Cassadine's visit to Valentine Cassadine in prison. Lulu was upset and asked if Jack intended Nina to speak directly with Charlotte, but Nina stressed that this was not the case and that she would never do such to Lulu. Lulu expressed gratitude, and the two women agreed to move forward from their earlier disagreements. Nina gently suggested to Lulu that she consider letting Charlotte to see her father, adding that she did not want to spoil the moment. Nina went on to explain that Valentine was her only parent throughout Lulu's coma, despite her attempts to be a mother figure as her stepmother. Lulu was surprised and asked why she would consider that, while Nina argued that letting Charlotte to meet Valentine would make her a hero in her daughter's eyes, and may help create some boundaries. Lulu was not happy with the prospect of Charlotte reuniting with her father, but Nina pointed out that every time she spoke with Charlotte, her daughter indicated a longing for her father. As Lulu realized that Charlotte had never mentioned Valentine to her, Nina recommended that she could gain substantial favor with Charlotte by arranging this encounter. Albrecht was overjoyed to stroll into Badgin Cafe and see Outback, along with Rocco Falconeri and Charlotte. She greeted the beagle with enthusiastic caressing and played with his ears. Liesl also commended Charlotte on how she'd grown into a wonderful young girl, as the two had known one another since Valentine and Nina's wedding. As she placed her order, Rocco asked Charlotte to keep this interaction from his mother, who was not supportive of his desire to know more about Britt. Charlotte absolutely understood, considering her mother's opinion on her father, and told him that she would be silent. Unexpectedly, Outback raced out of the diner, forcing the teens to after him. Rocco returned after chasing Outback with a cut on his head. Albrecht stepped in to help. Rocco returned with a gash on his head after colliding with a tree, stating that Charlotte was still pursuing the pup. He asked Albrecht to handle the situation herself, but the doctor determined that Rocco needed sutures. Rocco called his mother to alert her of the incident, and Lulu said she'd meet him at the hospital. She invited Nina to accompany her to act as a barrier between herself and her Aunt Liesl. Nina consented, and the two set out for Gish to meet Liesl and Rocco there. General Hospital recap. September 11th. Liesl feigns seeing Britt, Michael fakes it, and Anna interrogates Britt and Jason. Port Charles. Bound on the way back to Port Charles, Britt woke up after sleeping on Jason Morgan's shoulder for several hours. After exchanging some amusing remarks, Jason inquired about her activities in Croatia. Britt tried to claim that she was working on a cold fusion project and that it was just a regular job, but Jason responded that nothing about it appeared routine. He highlighted that she definitely wanted to leave before the WSB arrived, but Britt claimed that she simply wanted to avoid becoming caught in Pascal's mess. That included the kidnapping of WSB investigators and other such concerns. Jason persisted in questioning her, anxious to learn who she worked for. Britt continued to stonewall Jason, stating that she was simply working for Pascal, but Jason refused to believe her and warned that the WSB would not either. He told her to get in touch if she needed anything. Britt reiterated that his primary priority was always Carly, and that she could not completely rely on him. Jason insisted that he only wanted to be a buddy. "Well, you're not very good at it," she remarked. Read this. General Hospital spoilers. Willow marries Drew and surrenders to Quickie wedding as investigation heats up. Britt continued arguing with Jason when Jason questioned about her future plans. Britt reminded him that she did not want or require his assistance. He mentioned that he had experience returning from the dead, which may be rather complicated. Jason admitted to missing her while discussing how many people would want to hear she was alive. After a tense moment, Britt swiftly changed the subject, asking him for cab fare. He handed her a large sum of cash, and she promised to repay him. As the jet began to descend, Jason reminded Britt that whatever she was hiding, she didn't have to keep it from him. Carly informs Anna of her threats to Drew. Carly stepped into Anna's office and revealed that she had threatened to kill Drew the night he was shot. The police commissioner inquired whether she needed a lawyer, but Carly insisted she didn't shoot him. She knew Drew would warn her about the danger, so she decided to address it first. She reassured Anna that she had an alibi, Jack. Anna said that Brennan was one of the best liars she knew and warned Carly not to believe him either. Carly argued they had an understanding that Jack would never lie to her. As Jason entered the doorway. "Watch this. General Hospital. Nathan running Faison's operations." Massive twist explained. Liesel faints at the sight of Britt. Dante and Lulu met Rocco at the hospital when he arrived with Albrecht, who was surprised to see Nina with Lulu. Lucas took Rocco in for sutures, and the adolescent begged his parents not to be furious with Albrecht. Dante, instead expressing gratitude to Liesel for caring for their kid. Outside, Britt approached the doors and prepared herself before entering, recognizing the familiar surroundings. Liz stopped in her tracks and gasped, "Oh my God, Britt." When her name was spoken, Albrecht looked around, her jaw dropping at seeing her daughter. Nina and Dante were likewise taken aback when Lulu mentioned that they thought she was dead. "Well, believe it or not, Lulu," Britt responded, "I'm back." Overcome, Albrecht sank into Nina's arms. General Hospital spoilers suggest that Jen Sidwell may pose a threat to Britt Westbourne and Professor Henry Hank Dalton. Will this new lab team be forced to collaborate in Port Charles? Britt made it out of the Five Poppies Resort alive thanks to Jason Morgan's help, but that doesn't mean she can abandon the project she's been working on. Britt's work was backed up in preparation for their shift to a new location, because the operation had been damaged. Now that Britt will be living in Port Charles with Professor Dalton, she may have to move inside his lab and collaborate with him. It's easy to envision Sidwell summoning Britt and Professor Dalton to a meeting after Britt's PC return. Sidwell may take over as Britt's Pascal, carrying out the directions of the mysterious master. GH fans must remember that Britt still need her medicine doses, which might potentially be used to control her. Britt isn't impressed with Professor Dalton's development, but she may have to work with him to complete the next part of their lab work. It makes sense from a narrative standpoint, given that Emma Scorpio Drake is already investigating Professor Dalton's actions. Emma intends to break into the lab at some point, with the goal of taking Professor Dalton down. Emma has always despised Britt's guts, therefore she would gladly take her down as well. Of course, Emma has no idea what she's getting herself into here, because she's so focused on unlawful animal experiments. This endeavor is far more ambitious and could endanger Emma's life. If Britt is forced to save Emma from the difficulties she is about to get herself into, Emma may soften a little. Emma will be upset when she learns of Britt's survival, but things may change if Britt saves her from a life-threatening scenario. According to General Hospital spoilers, Emma will face unexpected news and perilous drama in the upcoming episodes, so stay tuned. The late evening chill lingered to the walls of General Hospital as Britt Westbourne closed a file and rubbed her sleepy eyes. The corridors outside her office hummed with low-level activity. Machines beeping, nurses walking from room to room, patients being brought softly down the halls. But internally, Britt couldn't shake the feeling that something bigger was working against her. Something unrelated to medicine and entirely concerned with survival. She'd been in Port Charles long enough to realize that it wasn't only a place for folks to heal. It was a battleground. And this time she was pushed toward the middle without realizing it. Dalton Royce leaned against the wall opposite her desk, arms folded and expression guarded. He was new to the hospital, unlike her, but his reputation as a research scientist preceded him. He wasn't the sort to waste words, and Britt quickly realized that he functioned best alone. But their paths had crossed increasingly frequently in recent weeks, compelled together by overlapping projects that the hospital board believed required collaboration. Britt had despised it at first since she was used to doing things her own way, without interruption. But Dalton had stood firm with a calm tenacity that gained her hesitant respect. That delicate partnership was about to be put to the test in ways neither of them had anticipated. Sidwell had made his presence known in Port Charles in subtle yet dangerous ways. His name was initially a whisper, a murmur in the darkest recesses of the hospital's financial streams, an unseen hand tugging at strings in the background. He possessed influence, money, and the ability to identify pressure spots. And once he discovered Britt and Dalton, he wasted no time in exploiting their flaws. The first communication arrived in the shape of an envelope slid under Britt's office door late at night. There was no return address or explanation. Only a snapshot of her leaving Jason Morgan's penthouse and another of her talking with Liesl in a cafe. The words, "You owe me your silence," or "Pay the price," were scribbled across the bottom in harsh black ink. Britt's stomach sank. She recognized threats when she saw them, and she felt certain Sidwell was behind it. Dalton took his warning differently. A data file on his laptop that he knew he hadn't downloaded. He opened it and saw sensitive records. Emails and papers from a project years ago that had resulted in charges of wrongdoing and whispers of ethical infractions. He had managed to put that chapter behind and start over in Port Charles. But Sidwell had it all beautifully wrapped, ready to ruin him with a single keyboard. The message was clear. Do what I want or your career, and your life will end. When Britt and Dalton eventually exchanged notes, the whole weight of the situation was shared between them. They were both stuck, pawns in Sidwell's game, and the only way for them to live was to cooperate. "This is exactly what I don't need," Britt mumbled, pacing her office while Dalton observed her with cool detachment. "I've got Carly breathing down my neck and Liesl reminding me of every mistake I've ever made, and now this maniac thinks he can just walk in and start pulling strings? I'm not going to let him ruin me." Dalton didn't move. "You don't have a choice." His voice was calm but steady. "Neither of us do. He possesses leverage. The only way out is to continue playing his game. At least until we figure out how to break it." Britt gave him a piercing look. "You sound like you've done this before." Dalton's jaw tightened. "Let's just say I recognize the type. Men like Sidwell will not stop until they achieve what they desire. And right now what he wants is us." This fact brought them closer in ways neither had anticipated. Sidwell's demands became clearer with each passing day. He desired studies with outcomes that challenged ethical boundaries, tests that the hospital would never accept if they knew the reality. He needed Britt and Dalton's combined expertise to forward his objective, which they couldn't completely understand but were both aware was perilous. Sidwell didn't appear frequently. He did not need to. His presence was felt through encrypted texts, phone calls from unknown numbers, and unexpected reminders that he was constantly monitoring. Britt once discovered a single red rose on her desk, with its stem punctured with a needle. Another occasion, Dalton's flat door was left unlocked, but nothing was taken. Sidwell's message was straightforward. "I can reach you anywhere."